Hey guys, Scott and Buddy here. Today we're going to keep it light. Let's just talk about racism. Um, Seeing as how I'm a white straight male, obviously I'm the perfect person to talk about this subject. So I want to talk about the term blendette in DBD. Blendette, if you're unaware, is a term that was made in the original days of DBD, where it just basically refers to the fact that Claudette was the only black survivor. The game was much darker at the time. She had very dark cosmetics, and it made it so she can kind of blend in with her environment. Even back then, it was never really racially charged. It's just, light refraction and science. It's harder to see her in the dark. That's how that worked. It was never really meant to be an insult on the, color of her skin. It's the fact that the color of her skin makes her harder to see in a darker version of the game. Now, the game's not really like that anymore. The term has sort of changed. It's just a legacy term that has evolved over time. But I want to go over the argument that a lot of content creators have been making about this being actually racially charged and racist and stuff like that. Because I remember seeing this argument a couple years ago, and I thought it was silly. And I still think it's silly. I think it's a very silly argument. But after talking to people, I kind of learned that it doesn't even matter if it's silly, as long as it's just something that's respected at the very least. I think that's really all they're asking for. And so it is a very sensitive topic. I don't want to talk about anyone particularly involved here, because I know a lot of us think this discussion is very silly and racism is involved. And my God, that is a recipe for internet anonymity to make people absolute dickbags. So I'm not going to talk about anyone specifically, just the points that they made. Now, I was obviously joking earlier. I'm a white dude. I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. So I talked to one of my black content creator friends about this. And we had a discussion for a good while about why people might see the term blendette as racist. And from what I understand, it's not so much racist as it propagates something called colorism, which is a term I didn't even know about. I'm still kind of unfamiliar with it. I'm going to try to summarize it as best as I can as I understand it. But in the conversation we had, even the person I was talking to mentioned it's pretty complicated. So if I don't get it, that's forgivable. From what I understand, it is less a rational thing and more if a white person comments on the color of a darker skinned person's skin, no matter the connotation, it still creates a negative emotional response. For example, I could say, X is the strongest black woman I've ever met. She's incredible. She's awesome. Super benevolent message, no negative connotation whatsoever. But as long as it's coming from me, and I know I'm a white dude, and they are a person of color, even if the connotation is perfectly benevolent, it still, again, even if it's not rational, puts a just instinctual, visceral response in the pit of their stomach that didn't feel good. And it comes from a history of racism and stuff like that. And I completely understand where that comes from. And that, I think, is the basis of where they're going with this argument, that the term blendette referred to the fact that she's, she has darker skin. And so most people referencing this are people that are white. And so the whole issue of colorism kind of comes into play there. But then, it seems like they're making the argument that the term is racist, but then backing it up with an argument that doesn't support that it's racist, that it maybe is, propagating colorism, which if that's their argument, fine, the video just ends right here. But I think calling it racist is just a little too much. I think that's just too far. And I want to go over the actual ways that this could be interpreted as racist. For the term blendette to be a racially charged term, first of all, you need to know that the player playing the Claudette is black, which means you have to be basically on Steam. You need to be your Steam name needs to have your stream name on there, or they need to be able to click your Steam profile and see that you're a black player. And then they need to decide, based off of all that information that they got, that in the chat, they're going to make comments based off of your race. And this is why I believe people, at least in terms of blendette, don't get me wrong, these players have been targeted by racists. It happens. Even with the blackface Bubba thing, we all joked about how silly that was. But I've literally seen examples of people going out of their way to specifically harass them because they're black. I know that has happened. I've visually seen it before. So that does happen. But for blendette, I don't know. I think that they might believe they're being targeted for this specific term more than they actually are. And I know how horrible and gaslighty that sounds. Let me explain more before you throw out the pitchforks there, because I know how horrible that sounds to, diminish their experience, stuff like that. I'm absolutely not trying to. But the argument I'm trying to make here is that in order for the term blendette to be racially charged, you need to know that the player is black, which means, like I said, you pretty much have to stalk the person. And I have seen this before. I think it's the vast minority, but I've seen black content creators get stalked and stream sniped just so they can join their lobby and do something that is racially charged. But in my opinion, if someone is that out of their goddamn mind and they're that unhinged that they're going to harass and stalk a person based off of the color of their skin just to go in a lobby and insult them based on the color of their skin, if they're that much of an insane, unhinged person, they're not going to draw the line at blendette, a relatively, not even relatively, a super tame term. They're not going to draw the line there. If they're that much of a psychopath, they're going to call you every racist term in the book. They're not going to draw the line at a super basic. They're not like, I'm an unhinged psycho that's stalking and harassing this person and I'm a racist, but oh no, Claudette is where I draw the line. It doesn't make any sense there. So that's the only point I'm trying to make there. I know a lot of these players are targeted based on their race. I've seen it happen before. I know it's a very real thing. I just don't think blendette is the one that is associated with this particular argument. That's all I'm trying to say there. And the thing is, the term blendette has changed over time. It originally did really refer to the fact that she was much harder to see, but like I said, the game has changed. Claudette doesn't blend in shit on Mount Ormond, for example. That map is as white as me. And so the term doesn't really refer to the fact that she's black now. To me, the term refers to any teammate whatsoever. I don't care who the teammate is that you perceive to be useless because they're just hiding and urban evading around the corners of the map all game. That's all it means now. That's all I've seen anyone ever use it in the past 4 years for. It is never really meant to do with the fact that she's hard to see. There are harder survivors to see than Claudette now. That is 100% a fact. So it's just a legacy term to refer to a teammate that is being useless because they're hiding. And usually it's talking about Claudette because it doesn't roll off the tongue with anyone else. It's not like you can't say a blend Meg or something like that. Meghead works. Meghead's another term that any survivor can be a Meghead. If you sprint burst into a wall and you're a female survivor, Meghead. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's white or she's like race has never really been involved in this discussion at all whatsoever. It has always just been about the play style or anything like that. And so again, the original argument that they're making is one of colorism. And if that's their argument, I can understand that, which is why I'm of the opinion, if you know that the term is bothering people, even if it's not that many people, and it costs you nothing to remove the term from your vocabulary, why not just stop saying it? That's what I did. I don't say it anymore. Again, even if I think it's silly, I think it's stupid, but whatever. It doesn't hurt me to not say it anymore, so I just don't say it. It's not that big of a deal. I do understand you have to draw the line somewhere, because when you tell people that they're being racist when they know they're not being racist, they get on the defensive, and understandably so. You're basically, if you try to tell people that they're being a bad person when they know they're not being a bad person, the default human reaction is to go defensive. How many times have they made this argument on Twitter only to be ridiculed by the community saying, you know, it's not that serious, you're just being a drama queen, blah, 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 blah. And some people will double down. They'll say, I'm going to say it even more now. That's just, I don't know why that's how humans react. That's just what they do. Because no one wants to be told they're being a bad person when they know they're not being a bad person. So you do have to draw the line somewhere, because if you can't say anything that anyone finds offensive, eventually you just won't be able to speak anymore, because you can find anybody that will find anything that you say offensive, and you do have to draw the line somewhere. So I think where that line is a great topic of discussion. I just don't think blendette's it. I think blendette is a super tame term that refers to play styles, not the actual player, and not even the color of the character of Claudette. Just, it's the play style of hiding and being a useless teammate. That's all I've ever seen. Now, obviously, I'm not black, so I wouldn't get targeted by those who do want to target that, but I got to imagine that's far and few between. And if you are getting targeted by that, they're going to use way worse terms than blendette. That's just what I'm thinking. Again, I am not super knowledgeable on the subject. I just think the term is silly, but I think the point that they're trying to make from every argument that they've made, the point that they're making is, even if you find it silly, at the very least respect it, which I can do. That's not much effort. It's not like my mother on her deathbed was like, you must call everyone blendettes every day. It's whatever. I'm not attached to it. I don't give a shit. So I just stopped saying it. If you want to keep saying it, fine. I don't care. I guess the whole point is respect where they're coming from, even if you think it's stupid. I guess that's it. I think that's all they're trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.